with us today. Michael, you have many fans missing you here in Hockenheim, but I believe you have some fans with you, your family. How is life at home in Switzerland during the racing season?
Obviously, you wish to be on the circuit and not sitting at home, but basically what has happened, I'm pretty happy already sitting here on this sofa and being able to give interviews. And I would like to use the opportunity to say thanks to all my English supporters, where I got tremendous support and many, many nice letters and presents. And I would like to use this opportunity to say thank you.
Michael, it's been 3 weeks since the accident. When can Ferrari expect to see you back in the driving seat?
That's a difficult question. Basically, every week we have a meeting with the doctors, and then we visit the healing of everything. But it's not only a bone problem; it's as well on my heel where I have a cut, and that is basically more affecting me because of the flexibility of my foot and the healing itself. And I don't really I'm not able to predict when things will be right.
I see. But without driving the car, Michael, have you been able to use your expertise to assist the continuing development of the Ferrari?
I mean, I'm in consistent contact with the team. I know every detail, what they change, what they do, and obviously if I have an opinion on something, I will express this. But it is important that they listen now after their drivers, because they can take the immediate feeling, and you need to sit in the car to feel really what's going on. So you can just give a gross impression rather than a detailed feedback. So it's not very much I can do, to be honest.
And finally, what's your prediction for this afternoon's race?
I'd say, first of all, I wish Heinz Howard a lot of luck, because he's in the most optimistic position, to be honest. Ferraris probably will do well, in my view, but to do a victory, I think it will be difficult. Nevertheless, not impossible. So if the McLarens wouldn't win, I would appreciate that to some degree. But anyway, we will see this afternoon what will happen. Thank you, Michael, and we hope to see you back as soon as possible. Thanks.
It's nice to see Michael Schumacher, Heinz Harald Frentzen there. He wished the best of luck too. And what do you make of that interview, Tony Jardine?
Well, it's interesting to try and guesstimate when he's coming back. Willy Weber, his manager, was here on Friday, and he said it's not going quite as well as they expected with the healing process. I was just thinking that, you know, if you actually have a plate in your leg like that, like Panis did, you know, 2 years ago, how do you drive with that? The possibility of a crash again. I think he might be out for the whole season.
Let's snatch a quick word with Eddie Irvine, winner in Austria last weekend. Here he is with Louise.
Eddie, fifth on the grid. Are you going to have your work cut out a bit from here?
Got your work cut out every day. In Formula One, it's never easy, but the car is difficult here. But at least I'm on a good side of the grid to make a good start, because it's going to be difficult to make any impression in the race, I think.
You say the car's difficult. What's the problem?
It's just very difficult on traction.
Good luck.
Plenty for Eddie Irvine to do. Hockenheim prepares to embrace the best drivers in the world. The German Grand Prix is looming large. And on behalf of everybody at ITV Sport, welcome to Hockenheim, round 10 of the 1999 World Championship. It's the German Grand Prix. You need grip and grunt round here. Two men with plenty of that. Martin Brundle and Murray Walker. Afternoon, Murray.
Afternoon, Jim. Lovely day here. The weather is, as you can see, superb. The track, which had started to cool a bit, is now heating up. 39 degrees, and that could be very significant. Incidentally, Eddie Irvine there and Mika Salo, who are respectively 5th and 4th on the grid, have both done an Austria. That is to say, at the very last moment, they have dived into their garages and had their Ferraris topped up with the last drop of fuel. And that implies that they're going to be having another late stop, as they did in Austria. Very interesting situation here, because it's not just McLaren against Ferrari here. It's McLaren against Ferrari and Jordan and Prost and Stewart, because this morning Olivier Panis in the warm-up and Jarno Trulli in the warm-up, his teammate in the Prost cars, was 2nd and 4th fastest, and they're starting in 7th and 9th positions on the grid. Now, the Stewarts have been going well as far as Rubens Barrichello is concerned, 6th, and incidentally, we are virtually certain that Rubens Barrichello has signed for Ferrari for next year, and that Eddie Irvine has signed for Stewart next year. So there's a change of places in that case. But Johnny Herbert has had a terrible time, starting 17th on the grid, although he made a masterly recovery this morning in the warm-up with very few laps behind him to set the car up. He was a superb 6th quickest, only 1/10 of a second slower than Rubens Barrichello. Damon Hill, 7th fastest this morning, starting 8th on the grid. The Jordans are looking very strong indeed. They have a new race engine from Mugen Honda, which has more power than the one they had in Austria. And you've seen how Heinz-Harald Frentzen has used it to best advantage, because you can just see over the bar of the grid there, the yellow blob on the left is Heinz-Harald Frentzen sitting in 2nd position on the grid. Very, very good position indeed. Although Mika Häkkinen and behind him Coulthard and behind him Eddie Irvine will be benefiting to some extent from the fact that they're on the cleaner side of the grid.
Yes, Frentzen making a big effort this morning to clean the right-hand side of the grid, as was Mika Sala, who starts just behind him. But Frentzen only 14th in that warm-up and ended up off the road and in the boondocks for a while there, so not a great warm-up. He's had 4 hours to think about that and fester over that since this morning's warm-up, and Frentzen will be feeling, I think, a little bit of heat from the McLarens and Ferraris that are scattered around him. The Ferrari's not looking particularly good this morning, although we said that in Austria and they ended up winning the race, although more McLaren giving them the race, I think, than winning it in some ways. But Irvine, of course, driving brilliantly there. Surprised to hear him on the grid saying to Louise, yeah, we're struggling for traction. It does look like that out on the race circuit. And Eddie sort of admitting that I don't think he's got the best car. And even this morning they were changing the rear wing on Salo's car in the middle of the warm-up, suggesting that they hadn't really got the car as they wanted it. But Coulthard fastest in this morning's warm-up. Panis and Trulli was 2nd and 4th. That Prost has been going well, Murray, hasn't it? But only 7th and 9th on the grid.
Got a slightly old-fashioned engine by modern Formula One standards. The Peugeot is not the latest miniaturized, as it were, engine, but it has got a lot of what Jim was talking about, grunt. Now, have they got the grip? Well, tyres are wearing here, and they're not going to wear out, obviously, but they do get a performance loss. And our information is that if they're lapping much below 1 minute 48 during the race, they will be coming in and having 2 stops. Last year, only one driver of any significance tried 2 stops, and that was Ralf Schumacher. With a light fuel load, he started off tremendously well, racing a very strong 3rd. But once he came in after that first stop, he was history. Tremendously fast track this. They do over 220 miles an hour down the straights. The pole position speed 148 miles an hour. And remember, Mika Salo is going to be a man to watch too in the Ferrari. 4th on the grid ahead of his teammate Eddie Irvine, as on the formation lap they leave the stadium section and plunge off into the first of the long straights which carve through solid forest. There are 3 chicanes. Here is the first one coming up. It's the Clark curve where they go right, left, right. And Martin, you've had an enormous amount of experience of this. What's it like at Hockenheim?
It's very narrow. That's the first thing that strikes you. If you're side by side with another car, you really do have to give each other some respect around here, because there's nowhere to go, and if you start flying, you're flying into the trees. So it's a pretty dangerous track in that respect, very bumpy too, and because you run such low wings here, a low downforce pushing the car down onto the track, less of it, the car tends to skip around quite a lot. And there's some old time, this area they're into now is very old tarmac, and as it's been wintered over the years, tends to be very bumpy too. We saw a lot of Formula 3000 cars flying off the road in the race there yesterday, and an area where the drivers must get on the power hard and early, but can catch you out very quickly, and there's no room to recover the car. This chicane, the 3rd chicane, it's called Senna, is a little bit easier and definitely an overtaking place on the way in. And 3 of those really, if you're brave enough on the brakes and late enough on the brakes. But into this stadium section, very rarely can you overtake successfully in there unless you really have got the inside line and half a nose ahead. And then really it's follow the leader through there. And those running the lower downforce setter. If you look down the rear wings as they're coming through, you can see a variation in the amount of wings the cars run. And there's up to 20 kilometers an hour difference between the cars down the straight here. So you really have to decide, do you want straight line speed or do you want grip through this section, the stadium, and you have to compromise.
Down comes the temperature a couple of degrees. That means things are going to tend to run a bit faster.
Yeah, I looked into that yesterday, Murray, because it went up 12 degrees in qualifying, and I thought that was rather strange in a 1 hour period. I think that the probe that they use on that is sometimes in the sun and sometimes in the shade, because I think it's very inconsistent, so we have to be careful on that reading here, I think, in Hockenheim.
Well, here we are. We're riding with Heinz-Harald Frentzen second on the grid. There is the World Championship leader and the World Champion in front of us, Mika Häkkinen. The flags of Germany and the 3-pointed star of Mercedes-Benz waving all around here. Norbert Haug on the right, Erja Häkkinen, Mika's wife on the left, as ever in the McLaren garage, as Mika Salo peels off to the right. Eddie Irvine stays to the left. Now, on the right-hand side of your picture there is Mika Häkkinen. 8 times he's been in pole position this year, and they peel off either left or right to form the grid. 22 cars are starting. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, like Häkkinen, has a clear track in front of him.
Yes, they're very slow lining up at the back of the grid, particularly slow today. That's not fair. They know that the cars on the front are overheating and struggling to keep their engines and everything down to temperature, but they've got to sharpen that up a little bit, I think.
Already then, 22 on the grid for the 1999 German Grand Prix. 1 light, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out and go. Mika Häkkinen gets away well. So does Frentzen. Slots into second place. And Salo is sprinting up on the left and taking second position. Ferrari, and off goes Pedro Diniz into the tyre barrier. Are they going to have to bring the safety car out or even stop the race? Well, it's Häkkinen leading, Salo second, Coulthard third. Eddie Irvine is challenging Frentzen, who's gone back into 4th position. Look at that, Mika Salo in only his 2nd Grand Prix for Ferrari, his 2nd at the Clark curve, chased by David Coulthard. Frentzen is 4th, and Rubens Barrichello is up into 5th position, and it's 2 cars off there, because the second one is Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR. For yet again, the 10th race he retires.
Watch Barrichello, Frentzen's move to cover his line. Barrichello trying to go down the outside. He won't make it through there in the white car. Frentzen holding 4th. Salo getting the start of his life. Häkkinen away well. Coulthard backed up a little bit behind Frentzen, and Eddie Irvine's had an appalling first lap.
Now, what about strategy? Are Ferrari running on a light fuel load? Are McLaren on a heavier fuel load? And look at the way Mika Salo is pushing as they come into the centre. Schumacher, that's Ralf Schumacher.
Yes, touching with one of the Prost, and the Prost looks like it's out of the race. Who's that?
It's Trulli. Jarno Trulli.
And Johnny Herbert on the grass in the background there. All action on the first lap.
And David Coulthard trying to get past Mika Salo for second place. Heinz-Harald Frentzen in 4th position. He started second. There's a big gap, as you can see, the 2 Benettons, and Damon Hill is behind the Benettons trying to get through as Mika Häkkinen comes through and completes the first lap at Hockenheim in the lead from Mika Salo, with David Coulthard behind him in 3rd position. Heinz-Harald Frentzen needs all that Mugen Honda grunt that we've been talking about, but he, I think, is running a heavy fuel load.
Well, they covered that first corner crash with waved yellow flags, look, meaning you must slow down significantly, and Sauber in the pits. We think it's a Lacey, a Sauber, maybe he's touched somebody on the first lap. No sign of that to us, but let's have a look at what they look like. They're just changing the tyre. Coulthard coming up the inside, but not close enough.
Now, this is giving Mika Häkkinen the opportunity to break away. Salo is doing the best he can, and he's staying ahead of David Coulthard, who is desperately trying to lunge past the Scarlet Ferrari. And meantime, Mika Häkkinen, with that clear track in front of him, and now a clearer track behind him, there it is pulling away. Häkkinen, Salo, Coulthard, Frentzen, Barrichello, Eddie Irvine is in 6th position. and Ralph Schumacher is 7th. There are the two Benettons. Damon Hill is in 10th position, ahead of Jarno Trulli. So Trulli started ahead, just behind Damon Hill, and he's still there. And it's still a mighty close. This is the second lap in this 45-lap race. And Eddie Irvine, he's got a lot to do, but now Rubens Barrichello is pushing on the power, and he's closing up on Frentzen.
Yes, Irvine struggling to maintain the pace behind Barrichello there, but Salo seems to have plenty of speed. Be interesting to see how it shapes up with the amount of fuel that he's got on board. He certainly lit it up off the line, got it away very well, suggesting he may be lighter, especially from that inside grid slot. But Salo going well, Coulthard bearing down on him, and Hakkinen really with a comfortable lead, Murray.
Well, here is Frentzen, and right behind him is Rubens Barrichello. Look out for the white Stewart as Hakkinen, Salo, Coulthard, Frentzen, Barrichello, Irvine and Schumacher come down the start and finish straight into turn one. Now there's a gap between Schumacher and there is Wurtz, Fisichella, Damon Hill is in 10th position, and Olivier Panis in 13th position is right on the wheel tracks of Johnny Herbert, as off goes Marc Genet in the Minardi, and his teammate Luca Badoer sprints past him as they exit the stadium section and go down towards Clark Curve. Well, it's looking good for Mika Hakkinen. He was leading by 1.1 seconds at the end of this lap, but Rubens Barrichello is pushing Frentzen ahead of him very hard indeed. He's consistently quick.
Coulthard in the slipstream. Has Coulthard made it through under braking? No, he hasn't. No problem. Salo holding him off nicely, but Frentzen and Barrichello seems to have some speed too, Murray.
Yeah, and Barrichello is pulling away from Eddie Irvine. The gap between 4th and 5th now, between 5th and 6th, I'm sorry, is 1 second. But Mika Salo's driving out of his skin. He's not only keeping up with Mika Hakkinen, but he's keeping David Coulthard there behind him in the McLaren. No team orders at McLaren.
Two Finnish drivers, first and second in this race. Not bad for a nation of 5 million, is it?
And do they like each other? No, they do not. They detest each other, and Barrichello goes through and takes Heinz-Harald Frentzen and 4th position. Now, here is the man who may be driving in his last German Grand Prix for Stewart. He's yet to win for this team, which has done wonderfully. Martin, take this, replay.
Yes, Hakkinen away well. Look, Frentzen comes across to try to block Coulthard. Both Ferraris away well too, but it's Salo who gets a nice run up the inside, will not be intimidated by Frentzen moving around, and slots into 2nd place, and then Coulthard taking Frentzen for good measure. And there's the crash, look, Villeneuve getting into the side of Diniz. And isn't it amazing how fast they're going, considering they've just left the start line?
Well, you do begin to wonder whether poor Jacques Villeneuve is going to finish a race for BAR this year. Here's another replay.
OK, now Villeneuve got tipped into the side of Diniz. So Diniz completely innocent there, but it looks like somebody ran into the side of Villeneuve. It looked like a Minardi to me. Ran into the side of Villeneuve, spun him across the road and collected the hapless Diniz.
Diniz out of the race, Villeneuve out of the race. Later, there's a replay of Rubens Barrichello going past Heinz-Harald Frentzen up into 4th position, and he's closing up on David Coulthard with Eddie Jordan watching. Now, Rubens Barrichello has really got the wind in his tail. He's up into 4th position. He's closing up on David Coulthard, who is right behind Mika Salo, who is now 1.5 seconds behind Mika Hakkinen, the fastest man on the track. Here's the proof. Here they come. Down towards the centre curve. That's the 3rd chicane. Hakkinen leads. Salo right in his wheel tracks is David Coulthard. Closing up on both of them is Barrichello.
Yes, look at the way the cars jink along the straight as the drivers have to steer them. They run very little camber here and very little toe in, and the cars are basically slightly unstable, and you'll see the driver just gently correcting it as he goes down the straight as they wander around.
Now, what we still don't know is what fuel loads these cars are carrying. This could be a bit misleading. One of them may be coming in before the others on a 2-stop strategy, which could dramatically change things. But if Mika Salo is on a 1-stop strategy in that Ferrari, then he's in a very strong position indeed. We suspect that Mika Hakkinen is certainly on a 1-stop strategy. David Coulthard behind him in 3rd position. We are now into lap 5 out of 45. Fastest lap so far is that of Mika Hakkinen, 1:47.6, compared with last year with the fastest lap we've had, 1:45.7. That was Gerhard Berger 2 years ago when they had much quicker cars. And now you're looking down on David Coulthard closing up on Salo and going for it.
Yeah, he's not near enough, and I don't think Salo was ready to yield. David's got a lot more straight line speed. He's losing out in the stadium section, and then, in fact, he lost out quite badly there by taking the tighter line in without really having a stab. But Coulthard's got the straight line speed, if he can only just get near enough.
And just watch Rubens Barrichello in that white Stuart. You see him inching up under the rear wing of David Coulthard's car. David Coulthard's got two problems now. One is somehow to get past Mika Salo. The other is to keep Rubens Barrichello behind him in fourth position. The gap between Barrichello and the yellow Jordan of Heinz Harald Frentzen, 1.3 seconds. So
Barrichello's getting an enormous slipstream from the Ferrari and the McLaren. If he can get a sniff, he'll be past the pair of them while they're dicing. So, and Frentzen pulling well clear of Irvine. Irvine's struggling, maybe. And Damon Hill going across the grass in the background. Look, I wonder if he broke his nose. Let's hope not, because Hill currently running in 9th, bouncing across the grass in the background of the picture.
Into the stadium, the right-hander, then the long left at the Sachs curve. This is it. Into the right-hander, double right-hander, turns 13 and 14. Then the final right-hander coming up now. There's Häkkinen, Salo, Coulthard, Barrichello. Häkkinen's lead was 1.6 seconds. And there is the gap between second and third, and Salo is now 1.9 seconds behind Häkkinen. Häkkinen is using to maximum advantage the fact that he's got a comparatively clear situation. Nobody on his tail, nobody in front of him. He can concentrate on getting the best possible line to increase the gap. Now, when will they be coming in? Well, we're on lap 6 at the moment. The earliest we're expecting anybody on a two-stop strategy is about lap 15. That's 10 laps from now. On a one-stop strategy between laps 23 and 27. But Salo, I remind you that Salo has, in the past, he's driven a couple of races for Lotus. He drove for Tyrrell for 3 years. He drove for Arrows. Only now is he in a potentially race-winning car.
Yes, Salo's never been in this kind of situation in a Grand Prix where he's been under pressure for a top 3 position, and taking the pressure well from Coulthard, who's clearly got some speed. But the fastest man on the racetrack right now is Rubens Barrichello, the man in 4th place.
Yeah, and what's happening to Eddie Irvine? He's dropping back. He's 6 seconds behind Mika Häkkinen now. All may be revealed when the fuel stops happen, but at the present moment, this is the battle. Salo, Ferrari, Coulthard, McLaren, Barrichello, Stewart.
Barrichello slowing, look. Barrichello slowed right down. Coulthard going deep into the hairpin, the Sachs curve, but Barrichello, well, this is going to be Damon bouncing across the grass I talked about earlier on, down at the centre. Watch him bounce through the air. Watch his front wing. Does he keep the front wing? Just about, yes. I think he got away with that one, Damon. But I think Barrichello could be out of this race.
And Damon had actually got past Alex Woods up into 8th position and will have lost that place, of course. And this is Rubens Barrichello retiring from the German Grand Prix. Well, they've got the latest Ford engine in. He's still under power. I'm very, very sorry for him.
It looks like he could be coming along on the emergency throttle idle. Villeneuve is with Louise down in the pits.
Yeah, Jacques, you look like the innocent party in that one.
I'm not sure what happened. Just when I hit the brakes, the rear became very light when I looked the rear. I don't know if someone hit me from behind or not. There's so many cars around, it's hard to judge. But once I started spinning, I took Pedro with me.
Bad luck, Jack.
Well, you can see Salo and Coulthard fighting for second position alone now. And the 4th car with Barrichello out of the race is Heinz Harald Frentzen. The gap between Frentzen in 4th position and Coulthard, who is 3rd, just behind Salo, is 3 seconds. But Frentzen now may be able to close. We'll see. And up into 5th position comes Eddie Irvine. To 6th comes Ralf Schumacher. Into the garage goes Rubens Barrichello out of the race.
Yes, they're having to trolley it in. I think that will be some kind of gear shift problem, hydraulic problem. I imagine that Rubens came in whatever gear he was in, and emergency throttle to get him home. Coulthard can't quite stay with the Ferrari on the way into the stadium. And then he's, a little bit wide, a little bit tail-endy there for David. He's got so much more speed at the end of the straights from that McLaren Mercedes-Benz. While they're having a scrap, we'll be back very shortly. We're taking a quick break.
front, but look at this battle with Damon Hill very much involved. He's chasing Alexander Wurz for 8th position. He got past a little while ago, but Johnny Herbert is now right up there with them. The only Stewart left in the race as you watch Hakkinen leading, Sarlo second, Coulthard third, and Louise Goodman has Rubens Barrichello with her.
Yeah, Rubens Barrichello obviously looking a little bit disappointed. Hydraulics failure, I understand.
Yeah, I lost the gear, I lost the throttle, I lost everything, so it's a shame because we were going quite well. I don't know what the strategy of the other drivers are, but I think we were going quite well to score points for sure.
Blinding first lap, did you enjoy the bit of the race that you did have?
Absolutely, yeah, it was quite good, and it's just a shame that we're not there. We're just losing points that we could not afford.
Thanks, Ruby.
Here's news. Eddie Irvine's on a charge. There he is, closing up on Heinz Harald Frentzen. You've seen Giancarlo Fisichella in the Benetton out of the race to join the other retirees. Rubens Barrichello, Pedro Diniz, Jacques Villeneuve. Here is Alex Wurz in 7th position. Damon Hill is right behind him. Johnny Herbert is in 9th place, in the Stewart, pursued by Olivier Panis and Jarno Trulli in the 2 Prost. We're on lap 10, coming up to 1/4 distance in this 45-lap race, as Eddie Irvine now increasing his speed. He's just gone round nearly half a second quicker, and he's right up with Heinz Harald Frentzen.
Yes, now Coulthard needs to make this stick somehow, because he's now losing a second a lap to Hakkinen. I was a bit surprised why Mika Hakkinen wasn't pulling away more up front. I suspect he's keeping a bit of a careful eye on his tyres as we watch Zonta coming up the inside of Zanardi for 12th place. But watching, does Zanardi squeeze back through again? I don't think there's enough spaces there. No,
this is the S-curve, and it's very, very tricky there.
Oh no, that's a bit of Coulthard's front wing gone missing. Coulthard's obviously just had a go at Sarlo and now loses the end fence off his front wing. He's going to lose some front grip with that. He may, let me see if the secondary wing is in there. I can't see at the moment. If he's, yeah, look, he's lost it. He is going to lose a whole bunch of time with that.
Which of course will help Mika Sarlo to retain that 2nd place. Is David Coulthard going to here's a replay now. Watch, David Coulthard dives up the inside. There is a collision there, as there was in Austria when he tried to do the same thing to Mika Hakkinen. Off goes the end plate of the wing. Hopefully they'll get it out of the way. Erja Hakkinen is not at all happy about that, nor is Mark, the physio, and the McLaren mechanics are out in the pit lane. There is the new nose, which is going to go onto David Coulthard's car when he comes in from 3rd position, and Mika Sarlo takes the opportunity to pull away.
He's in. He's obviously losing too much downforce. I think I have to say I would have tried a little bit longer just to see what my time was, see if I could get into a one-stop window, a bit further into a nearer one-stop window, but Coulthard in. James, what's happening?
Tremendous frustration at McLaren. Obviously Coulthard desperate to get past Mika Sarlo, but I've been looking at the computers, guys, as the nose comes off and the new tyres goes on. The wisdom on the grid was that the tyre degradation here was just too bad to run with a very, very heavy fuel load. Also, you've got to watch out for the brakes. And, well, of course, he's put a new nose on, so you don't want to compare it to a normal pit stop, but the brakes need looking after as well, Martin, and I think that's what Hakkinen's been doing the last few laps. Now, looking at the computers, the difference between a 1-stop and a 2-stop fuel load is 30 kilos, and at 3/10 of a second a lap for 10 kilos, you'd have to be over a second a lap faster to be on a different load. Haven't seen that so far in this race. I do believe they're all on 1-stoppers, but interestingly, Irvine was topping up not only in the pit lane but also on the grid as well, and his pace, he does look heavy. I can't see the thinking there because the tyres don't like it, the brakes don't like it.
Well, James, thank you for that. David Coulthard is now down in 11th place ahead of Ricardo Zonta. So he's lost 8 places as a result of that move. And up into 3rd position has come Heinz Harald Frentzen. There is Coulthard with that new nose. Now there is Hakkinen, race leader, and he's about 6 seconds ahead of Sarlo there in 2nd position. Frentzen up into 3rd, Irvine up into 4th. So it's looking good for Ferrari in terms of the Constructors' Championship, but we are only a quarter of the way through the race, so there's a long way to go. But both the Ferraris, Sarlo 2nd, Irvine 5th, are in the points. Now only one of the McLarens, Mika Hakkinen, is in the points. There is Heinz Harald Frentzen, who is 2nd. Damon Hill has moved up to 8th, and Alexander Wurz to 7th. And in the points now is Ralph Schumacher, who has driven so well for Williams this year. Now, let's see whether Eddie Irvine in the Ferrari there can do anything about Heinz Harold Frentzen ahead of him. He's not doing anything at the moment. He's not gaining, and off goes Jarno Trulli, and it looks as though he's out of the race. Well, Prost was so optimistic about this race. They were second and fourth fastest in the warm-up, as I said. They started in 7th and 9th positions, but Jarno Trulli, who is rumoured to be on the move to another team next year, you can tell from the body language, is a very unhappy man. So here's Ralph Schumacher. This is Trulli on a replay. And it looks as though the Peugeot V10 has said that's it for today in Germany. Thank you very much. Out of the race goes Jarno Trulli. We're on lap 12 out of 45.
Yes, 43% full throttle around this racetrack, and it's a real engine breaker. But the Peugeots have been braking more regularly than any of the others this weekend. So Hannes back down in 9th, and Trulli out of the race, and Fisichella stopped. He's out of the race with a broken front suspension, and Barrichello, as you know, with hydraulic failure. There's Coulthard at the back of that pack. That's his main problem. Not only has he lost time getting that nose fitted, he's got quite a pack of cars to chase down and pass now, and they're having their own particular dice.
Yeah, here they are. The first one he's got to try and get past is Panis, then Johnny Herbert, and then after Johnny Herbert, Damon Hill, after Damon Hill, Alexander Wurz. If he did that, he would be in 6th position, but he would be some 10 seconds behind Ralph Schumacher, and it's not going to be easy for him to pass those men ahead of him. They're in very quick motor cars. They are very determined and very experienced and extremely capable drivers. He's up at the sharp end at the moment. It's going to be very tough for David. Lap 13, Häkkinen leads Sarlo by 5.7 seconds, and Coulthard is now right up with Olivier Panis, the winner of the Monaco Grand Prix a few years ago.
Yes, 95, but Panis really, in fact it was 96, Panis looking much slower than Coulthard. Coulthard should eat him alive if he can. Coulthard running a bit wide into turn 1, actually lost the advantage he needed to slipstream Panis down this first straight. David sliding around in the turbulent wake, and here you see a replay of Coulthard early in the race having lost the edge of his front wing, and that's a major part of it. He's probably lost 30% of his front downforce with that, and there would be no way of carrying on. He'd just wear his front tyres out, going slower and slower. So they were better to come in, get the nose fixed, and get out there and get on with the motor race.
Incidentally, poor David took a lot of stick after Austria for driving into Mika Häkkinen, but we know that David Coulthard was told to try to build a test.
Sorry, Murray, Frentzen gone straight, Hill gone straight across the gravel, so Damon out braking himself there, and I would think Coulthard will get up the inside of him too. So that's one Coulthard hasn't got to pass. That's the second time Damon's gone straight on, having a terrible job slowing down that Jordan.
Very, very easily done at that particular point, and brakes here take a terrific pounding. They slow from 200 miles an hour, over 200 miles an hour, something like 220, to 70 for the first chicane, to 60 for the second chicane, to 70 for the third chicane, and it gives them a tremendous pounding. That's Johnny Herbert in the white Stewart. He's in 8th position, only 2 places from a World Championship point. This is a replay. Damon Hill trying to get past Wurz, locks up, goes onto the grass, into the gravel track, keeps it rolling, and fortunately for him, the nose does not dig in and break.
Well, I hope Damon doesn't drop out of this race and decide to go home early in his jet. He's giving me a lift tonight, but that's going to be a fairly sombre journey, I suspect. Not a great afternoon for Damon Hill, but meanwhile Coulthard has got a face full of the back of Panis's Prost, and that's not too tidy. Here's Damon now coming down the pit lane.
Yeah, better be safe than sorry. Is he retiring or is he just...
I don't know, but the mechanics weren't ready for him, Murray.
No, they obviously weren't. So what is the problem? Up comes the rear of the car. They normally change the tyres and wheels just as a precaution, but as a result of being unexpected and the fuel rig not being ready, there's been a lot of time being lost there. Here's the leader.
Yes, and Hill's switching off the engine as Irvine looks like he's shaping up behind Frentzen for 3rd place. Hill switches off the engine. Apparently he was told to stay out, not to come in. That's why the mechanics weren't ready.
Eddie Irvine on a charge then. He's right up behind Heinz Harold Frentzen. There he is. And Damon Hill retires from the German Grand Prix with Heinz-Harald Frentzen under colossal pressure from a very determined Eddie Irvine, the winner of the Austrian Grand Prix last Sunday. And this is the Eddie Irvine, there's Damon Hill, and maybe the last time you see him at a German Grand Prix. And Eddie Irvine, of course, has won 2 races this year. He's had a 2nd place, a 3rd place, a 4th place, a 5th place, and a 6th place. He's only failed to finish in 1 of the races, and he's right on top of his very considerable form as he chases Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And the gap between Frentzen and Sarlo is now nearly 5 seconds. And if Irvine can get past the Jordan, it's going to mean that Ferraris are 2nd and 3rd, and that Mika Häkkinen will be praying for reliability. We still don't know what the fuel strategy situation is. I remind you that the earliest stop that we will be expecting might happen next lap, as Johnny Herbert, Panis and Coulthard in 9th place, very close together, are fighting for that 7th position. Now, there is ahead of Johnny Herbert, Alexander Wurz, the only Benetton driver left in the race because Fisichella is out of it, as is Barrichello, Deniz, Villeneuve, Jarno Trulli. The last driver running out of the 22 started is Tora Takagi. She's in 16th place in the Arrows. Well, fast and furious we expected it to be, and fast and furious it is. It is hot. The track temperature now is 39 degrees. It hasn't gone down at all since the race began.
Now, Irvine's rear tyre's going off a little bit as he's chasing down Frentzen. Let's give you an idea. Häkkinen in the lead on a 1 minute 48.6. Sarlo, 2nd place man, a 1:48.1 on the last lap. And then Irvine and Frentzen back in the 49s.
Fastest lap last year, 1:46.1. Fastest lap this year, Häkkinen, 1:47.4. Martin, any recriminations with David at the end of the race, do you think?
I don't know. I didn't see the start of that move. We didn't pick it up on the TV. We just saw the bitter end of it. Obviously, he thought he had a chance. I know with these cars, if you commit to a braking and it's not going to work, there's Panis going a little bit deep in. There's no way back. There's just not enough front grip to have a go and think, okay, no, I'm not going to make it, and then get out. You commit to a move, and it's a one-way street, is the impression I get.
Trouble is, you're damned if you do and damned if you don't. You're damned if you do and you hit someone, and if you don't, you're a wimp for not trying.
Yes, well, as I just said about 2 corners before, David had to get on with it and make one of those passing moves stick because Häkkinen was beginning to pull away, obviously finding his feet and deciding to push a little bit harder up at the front. So we're going to take a quick break. Be back very shortly.
Tora Takagi, the Japanese driver. This is a replay of Takagi. He is leaving the race to join the other retirees. Damon Hill is out, so is Jarno Trulli, and Fisichella is out as you watch.
This happened during the break. Coulthard saying, Olive, I'm fed up following you, I'm coming through, in a rather novel way of passing a car, bouncing across the curbs, and then Panis trying to get back in. And Coulthard saying, no way, better rally across there. Here he comes now up the inside and realises he's just got to take the shortcut across. An extreme use of the curbing. I don't believe he'll be penalised for that. And that's Coulthard now homing in on the next victim, which is Johnny Herbert.
If you were Alain Prost, would you be nipping down to make a protest about that, Martin?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it was quite... I think he just about had the outside edge of one tyre on the racetrack, didn't he?
Yeah, well, here's Ralf Schumacher in the Williams, and we're on lap 18 now with Mika Häkkinen 6 seconds ahead of Mika Salo, the Flying Finn leading his compatriot Mika Salo. Heinz-Harald Frentzen has closed a tiny little bit on Salo. Frentzen in third position. Salo driving a quite magnificent race in the Ferrari in second position. This is Mika Häkkinen coming down towards the stadium in the McLaren, and you can see how close in the background Eddie Irvine in fourth position in the Scarlet Ferrari is to Heinz-Harald Frentzen. It's a McLaren leading, a Ferrari second, a Jordan third, a Ferrari fourth. Here is Ralf Schumacher, who is in fifth position, and then we've got this battle between Wurz, Herbert, David Coulthard up into 8th place ahead of Panis.
A bit clumsy there for Ralph and way off line, but once again he's just keeping his head down. He's had a woeful lack of pace this weekend in the Williams, but keeping his head down and minding his own business up there in 5th place.
Yeah, that's Wurz in the blue Benetton. Johnny Herbert with David Coulthard swarming all over him in 8th position in the McLaren.
Yeah, Johnny getting a lot of wheel spin on the exit there of the centre chicane, and that surely has given David a run at Johnny. If he's going to make it, he's got to come up the inside any time now, but there's not enough time. You've really got to be alongside going into the stadium. Johnny defending extremely well.
Yeah, keep your fingers crossed for Johnny Herbert. This is his 139th Grand Prix. He's had terrible luck with the Stewart team this season. He's only had 1 points finish in Canada, 5th position. He deserved so much more. And yesterday he had a really torrid time. He's had hardly any time, any laps to set up the Stewart. He had about 11 laps this morning, and into the pits comes Olivier Panis from 9th position, having been passed, as you saw, by David Coulthard. There are the mechanics, they're ready.
Yeah, it's obviously a 2-stopper then for the Prost team. Doesn't take too much working out, and surprising really, I thought they had a bit more natural pace than that. And Johnny Herbert has got a good run on the Benetton.
And he's through.
Yes, looks to me as if Wirtz now covering his line. Looks as if Wirtz had some kind of problem under braking, or probably in turn. I suspect he ran wide in turn 1. Johnny Herbert up to 6th place.
Yes, mega Johnny up into 6th position. Keep it going.
Just to remember, he started 17th on the grid.
I know. Another indication of how little passing there is in Formula 1 these days. So, Johnny Herbert 6th, Alexander Wurz is 7th, David Coulthard fighting to get up into the points. Mika Häkkinen, his team leader, is still very much there as race leader, extending his advantage over Mika Salo. It's now 6.4 seconds, but they've both got to stop. So, here's Herbert in the Stewart Ford. Wurz, Coulthard, and by the way, people who say that Super Tech engine in Wurz's Benetton has not got much grunt want to watch this. He's keeping up with Johnny Herbert, and that Ford engine in the Stewart is one of the most powerful in Formula 1.
Yes, but if you have a look at the skinny rear wing on that Benetton compared to the McLaren that's following it, you can see just where they're finding that extra or matching the speed with. And this is where Wurz is going to struggle when he needs a bit of grip. And look at the way Coulthard's able to close in under braking, but Wurz then driving a car with a very, very light downforce, but doing a good job in 7th place.
Skinny wings, little downforce, 4-groove tyres, a tricky surface, 800 horsepower, and Wurz, as you say, is doing a great job to keep David Coulthard in the top car, the McLaren behind him.
Yeah, Coulthard now in the perfect position now, and Wurz should just try and head him off early. I think he's missed his moment, and Coulthard now will ease. He's got the right line now, and the right amount of speed. He's just got to make sure that Wirtz can't go back down the outside, or worse still, run into the back of him. So Wirtz struggling in that turn one. He's lost 2 places in 2 laps.
Yeah, I remember Wirtz and Schumacher at Monaco, Wirtz and the Benetton, Schumacher in the Ferrari, and how Alex fought and fought and fought to keep Michael back. He wasn't able to with David. It was a nice clean move, and as a result of that, David Coulthard is up into 7th place. Here's Mika Salo second. Still, Eddie Irvine can do nothing about Heinz-Harald Frentzen.
I'm surprised that Häkkinen's not pulled out a bigger lead. I really am. I don't know why I expected him to walk away with the extra pace he appears to have had over the Ferrari. Maybe he's nursing the car, nursing the tyres and brakes a little bit, but a 6.1 second lead after 19 laps really does surprise me.
Deep breath, lap 20 out of 45. Mika Häkkinen leads, Salo second, Frentzen third. There is Irvine in 4th position. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams is 5th. Johnny Herbert is 6th. Alexander Wirtz has been passed by David Coulthard, who is now 7th. Olivier Panis has come in, so Zanardi is up into 9th position. De La Rosa is 10th. Badar is in 11th place. Marc Genet, his teammate in the Minardi, is 12th. Jean Alesi is still running in 13th position. Last runner is Ricardo Zonta. You just saw him there. He's right up in this bunch here. Coming towards us, De La Rosa in the arrows. On the left is Badar, passing Zanardi in the Williams.
Minardi has just passed a Williams, Murray. Is that a replay? Is that what's happening?
I'm sorry, that's Badar.
No, but yeah, you're right. No, you're absolutely right. But it's just incredible. Here's De La Rosa.
Oh, yes,
Here's De La Rosa taking the position. Then Badoer gets him next time around. Maybe Zanardi's got some kind of drama. Again, De La Rosa taking the shortcut and somehow comes out in front. I would assume he must hold up. This is it. He holds up Zanardi, and then Badoer gets a run at Zanardi down the next straight.
And meantime, as Marc Genet and the Minardi comes into the pits, Olivier Panis is now the quickest man on the track on new tyres in the Prost, and he's in 9th position, closing up on Alexander Wirtz, but he's 14 seconds behind him. And now here is Mika Salo, second. All right, so what's Eddie Irvine got to do? Look how close he is.
Well, he must have been heavy at the beginning, as we anticipate, although nobody seems to think that that's the fastest way to run this race. Ferrari have obviously elected to do that. Irvine getting more and nearer the front-running pace, but will his tyres stand it? That's the question. And he's got to somehow push. And Jordan are out in the pit lane, so maybe Jordan are going to make a relatively early stop for Frentzen. He's probably called in, and there he is now. We know it must be Frentzen. Damon Hill is out of the race. We don't know why, but Frentzen coming in pretty early. This surprises me if they're 2 stopping. No, it's just an early 1-stopper, I think.
Yeah, I was expecting an early 1-stop round about lap 23, and this is lap 22. Is it going well? Yes, it is. 10.5 seconds. Now, where is Heinz-Harald Frentzen rejoining the race? That is the important thing. It's a long pit lane.
In front of Herbert, and there's Herbert and Coulthard coming down the pit straight. So Frentzen maintaining 5th place. Somebody's off. Look, that's the BAR of Zonta. That's a bizarre place to go off. It looks like his engine is blown up and locked solid and put him straight off the road.
Another bad day for BAR. Retirement for Villeneuve, collision on the first lap, and now retirement for Zonta.
Every so often all the bits really do meet in the middle, and if you can't get on the clutch fast enough, the engine stops. You've got no hydraulic pressure for your clutch.
Look at this!
Second and third,
look at this. Second and third, Ferraris together.
Yeah, Frentzen in the pits, of course.
That's it. So now lap 22, Mika Häkkinen leads. Mika Salo is second, Eddie Irvine is third. The Ferrari mechanics are getting ready to bring one of the 2 in. Which one it is, I do not know. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen has been passed by Ralf Schumacher while Frentzen was in the pits. So German drivers are now 4th and 5th in the reverse order, and Alex Zanardi has retired from the German Grand Prix, and that is the 7th time in 10 races that he's retired. And we're expecting Eddie Irvine to be coming in. Yes, here he is. James Allen, take him early.
Well, thank you very much. Ross Brawn will have watched what Frentzen was doing. I spoke to Mike Gascoigne before the race. He said you might see a few changeovers today, people going from 1 to 2. Let's watch the fuel going in. If it's less than 9 seconds, they're doing a bit of a crafty one and trying to make up some track time. But it's, well, it's still going in. Fuel, I think this is a 1-stopper. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's a 1-stopper.
Well, he saved a second on Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Frentzen took 10.5 off. Irvine's got to get out before Frenson to keep track position, and he does it. Eddie Irvine has come in and he's made his pit stop, and he's got ahead of Frenson on the track on lap 23. Wow, lap 23 then, Hakkinen leads and is still to come in. Salo is second, 8 seconds behind him and is still to come in. Eddie Irvine is in third position ahead of Ralf Schumacher, temporarily fourth, and Frenson has gone through as we watch race leader Mika Hakkinen. I'm with you, Martin. I'm very surprised that Mika Hakkinen has not been able to pull out more than 8 seconds over Mika Salo.
I think if Salo started to catch him up, I think we'd see Hakkinen's true pace. I believe he's nursing his tyres, particularly the rears. We've seen them through practice. They may well start with 4 grooves on. They're ending up virtually bald slicks, but they're not working particularly well in that condition. So Hakkinen, I think, driving a very mature race here.
Yeah, and he's the man to do it, of course. He's... Oh, and this is Marc Genet being pursued by De La Rosa in the arrows going off the track in 13th place, trying to pass Marc Genet. 12th position. Into the pits comes Mika Salo in the Ferrari. Irvine took 9.4 seconds. This is lap 24. The second Ferrari to stop. Nice clean stop. 9.4 seconds Eddie Irvine took.
Yes, presumably Salo is going to have to give the kind of service to Eddie Irvine later in this race that Irvine normally has to give to Michael Schumacher if he maintains his position ahead of him. And I think he will just about. He'll have to get on with it out of the pit lane though. And I think Salo is going to maintain that second position, second and third for Ferrari, and that's going to be interesting on the team tactics later on.
10 World Championship points for Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship at the present moment. 10 World Championships for McLaren in first position at the moment. If they stay where they are now, the situation will be exactly the same as it was in Britain, exactly the same as it was in Austria. There's only going to be 2 World Championship points separating them in the Constructors' Championship as Johnny Herbert exits the pit lane, pursued by Alex Wurz in the Benetton. Just one Stewart left, just one Benetton left. Lap 24.
Yes, I think the waved yellows there was for the recovery of Zonta's blown up and seized up racing car. So you're looking at second, third and fourth as Frenson bounces across the curbs, and this almost certainly, or will be, Hakkinen's pit stop. Coulthard is now out of sync with that early stop for the nose change. We know they will have topped up Coulthard's car and he can go further into the race, but that must surely be Hakkinen.
Well, very quick. Oh, hold it, Louise, because into the pits comes Mika Hakkinen, the race leader, with an 11-second advantage over Mika Salo, who must surely give way to Eddie Irvine to let the man with the superior number of points in the Ferrari team take precedence. Now, the quickest lap stop we've had so far was Irvine.
There's a fuel rig problem here at McLaren. They're having to change over to Coulthard's fuel rig, look. They didn't get any fuel in it.
This is terrible for McLaren. They're losing time all the time, and there's a chance that Eddie Irvine will move into the lead. 24 seconds. He's lost at least 14 seconds.
Salo leads the German Grand Prix, pursued by
Eddie
Irvine and Frenson, and Hakkinen will appear from the left-hand side of your screen any moment now as he comes out of the pit lane. Mika Hakkinen down to fourth.
Well, are we going to see what we saw in Austria? Fighting comeback by Mika Hakkinen. Remember the way he tore past car after car in Austria last, and he came right through to finish in third position behind Coulthard and Eddie Irvine. But Ferrari leads, Ferrari second. We certainly didn't expect to see that. Louise, now, this is your time. No, it isn't, because we're staying with the race for Mika Salo and Eddie Irvine. Now, I'm expecting those headphones in Mika Salo's helmet. David Coulthard gets a 10-second penalty. Is this a bad race for McLaren? Because Hakkinen's lost some 14 seconds as a result of that pit stop. Now David Coulthard, who had fought his way up to 6th position, loses 10 seconds, plus the time that it takes to slow down getting into the pits, and then back to racing speed getting out of it. There is David Coulthard.
Yes, I think it could be for when he touched the Ferrari, when he tried that passing manoeuvre. It says incident involving car 2 under investigation by stewards. Either that, or if you remember, when he went across the inside of the track when he passed Panis. So terrible day for Coulthard.
Yeah, meantime, he's having a go at Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and the Ferrari aficionados have got the drift, of course, at Hockenheim. They can see their cars are leading and in second place. Look at the proof there. The prancing horse of the Maranello team, Ferrari, on those flags, waving all round Hockenheim. And Michael Schumacher may not be there, but this is the next best thing, believe it or not. It looks as though the Germans would rather see a Ferrari without Schumacher win than Heinz-Harald Frentzen, a German, in a Jordan. And look now, as Mika Häkkinen approaches Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Louise, what's the news?
Well, I'm standing here with Damon Hill. We'll get the news from him direct. Damon, why did you retire?
I had to stop. Basically, I couldn't use the brakes, which is a bit of a handicap round here. I had to change to a different brake material between the warm-up and the race, and it's something I'm just not used to, and I'm not able to stop the car at all. And I locked up badly 3 times and went straight on, and there's just no way I could carry on racing like that.
There seemed to be a bit of confusion. The team was saying staying out, you were saying I'm coming in. What was happening there?
Yeah, but the team always say stay out because they want to carry on. They want to make sure you have the opportunity. But I mean, I'm in the cockpit. I know the situation, and ultimately I took the decision that it was not safe for me to carry on. I can't stop the car, basically.
You were looking very angry when you got out of the car. Was that frustration?
Yeah, frustration because it's another race weekend where it's gone wrong, and I'm not in the points, and.
Oh, come on, sorry! Mika Häkkinen collides and into the tyres, just as Michael Schumacher did at Silverstone. Out of the race, no points. And meantime, Eddie Irvine has got ahead of Mika Salo into the lead. But how is Mika Häkkinen? That is the important thing. Nothing matters more. He's okay.
Yeah,
Thank heavens for that.
He didn't go anything as hard as Schumacher, but it looked like the rear wing post was broken. Whether it was a blowout that broke the rear wing, or whether the rear wing mounting broke, there's some pieces that fly out of the rear, and that's a significant factor also for Coulthard's car. This is his stop-go, of course. Häkkinen sitting on the side of the car, just catching his breath. But when we see the replay of that, you'll see bits of carbon fibre fly out of the rear of the car, and then it appeared to me that the rear wing mounting broke. But I need to have another look at the rear tyres too. They look flat and they're damaged there, but that was because of the spin. Häkkinen wandering off.
I endeavour always not to use the word disaster unless something really awful has happened. But this is a disastrous race for
Watch,
McLaren.
Murray, look. Was it?
Yes, the
I
wing's
think it's
broken.
the rear wing, look. I think it's the rear wing mounting, and the punctured tyres are because he was going backwards at 200 miles an hour, and as he's trying to slow the car down. And it is rather reminiscent of what happened to Schumacher, but nowhere near as fast, and managed to scrub a lot of speed off with these spins. It looks to me like something broke on the rear wing mounting.
Well, so that is McLaren in the form of Mika Häkkinen out of the race. No points for him, and if Eddie Irvine can finish this race on the podium, he's going to take the lead in the World Championships, as we see a replay of, thank heavens, Mika Häkkinen perfectly all right as he gets into the course car. But on lap 27 in this incredible race, and it's a 45-lap race, Häkkinen watches her man and she knows he's all right, thank heavens. But look at this! Eddie Irvine, who won in Austria and who won in Australia, leads the German Grand Prix for Ferrari from Mika Salo. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is third. David Coulthard has had to take a penalty stop. Ralf Schumacher is up behind him. Olivier Panis is in that position. And we've got to take a break, but we will be back soon. out of 45 in this amazing German Grand Prix at Hockenheim. And Eddie Irvine, probably under team orders, has taken the lead from Mika Salo, who is dutifully in only his second race for Ferrari, following his team leader 1.5 seconds behind him. Ferrari first, Ferrari second. Mika Häkkinen out of the race after that crash. David Coulthard has had 2 stops, one of them for a penalty, and has still got to make another one. He's in 6th position, but Heinz-Harald Frentzen in the Jordan is just 3.9 seconds behind Mika Salo, but not looking capable of catching, never mind passing the Ferraris. Ralf Schumacher is 4th in the Williams. Olivier Panis is 5th for Prost, and David Coulthard is being challenged by Johnny Herbert for 6th place.
I wouldn't be too sure about Frentzen on that one, Murray. He did a 48.8 on the last lap, 2 seconds faster than Salo in 2nd place, and a second faster than Irvine, who's currently leading. And look, they're all in the same straight. Now, if you're frustrated you didn't see Irvine overtake Salo while we were all watching Häkkinen in the tyre wall, we didn't see it either. I don't think any TV camera picked it up. I don't know where it happened, how it happened, but Irvine ended up in front of Salo, and here's a man who's having another great afternoon, albeit quiet. Ralf Schumacher in 4th, Panis 5th, Coulthard 6th, but I think he's got to stop yet again. You're not allowed to refuel the car on a stop-go penalty. You stop at your own pit, but they must not touch the car, and then I think Coulthard will have to come back in.
Great race by Ralf Schumacher. He started 11th on the grid. He's fought his way up into 4th place. He's the driver of the year in many ways so far, with 2 third places behind him already this season, in a car which even Williams, probably especially Williams, admit is by no means the best in the field. They're looking forward to having the BMW engine next year, and Mika Häkkinen walks in, takes the cheers of the crowd. No points for the reigning world champion, and that is the 4th time in 10 races that Mika Häkkinen has failed to finish. And as Martin points out, Heinz-Harald Frentzen there, the winner of the French Grand Prix, the man who is in 4th position in the World Championship, 15 points behind Mika Häkkinen, is on a terrific charge as Eddie Irvine in 1st position completes 2/3 of this race. He's coming through to complete lap 30 out of 45.
Yes, Irvine's picked his pace up. He's actually a fraction faster than Frentzen in the first 2 sections of this lap. So Irvine clearly had the radio call that Harry Heinz is on a charge and get on with it. Salo may be the one coming under pressure.
Well, I said in Austria I didn't expect Irvine to have won the race. We started this race from 9th position in the warm-up this morning. He didn't look as though he'd had a good warm-up at all, although he was probably on used tyres. He started from 5th on the grid. Into the pits comes Olivier Panis, and he was in 5th position to take his 2nd pit stop.
Yes, remember he was on a 2-stop strategy, so Panis in for a 2nd scheduled stop from a current 5th place. And just before we cut away to that, we saw Frentzen in the background getting a bit overexcited through turn 1, but Frentzen stayed on track and actually lost a bit of time to the 2 Ferraris on that lap.
I tremble to say anything about Johnny Herbert after the luck that he's had this season, but he's still running in this race on lap 31 out of 45, just out of the points, in 7th position.
Yes, McLaren will be wondering what's happened to Häkkinen's car. Will it impact? Could the same thing happen on David Coulthard's car? And the rear wings are at such high speeds, 350 kilometres an hour plus, that we've told you about, well over 220. The rear wing posts are taking an enormous amount of load.
Which is exactly what happened to Johnny Herbert yesterday in the Stewart. The top element in the rear wing bowed. It didn't break, it bowed as he approached the Os curve at 210 miles an hour, and he went off and was very lucky to be completely uninjured. And ironically, the wing regained its shape, and it looked as though nothing at all had happened to it when he came in. But here we come. Ferrari leads, Ferrari 2nd, Jordan 3rd, as Eddie Irvine comes through to complete lap 31. Well, it is going to be an incredible situation if he wins this race, but as I said in the past, and I'll say again, there's still a long way to go. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen, I'm just seeing whether he's continuing slowly to reel in Mika Salo, and the answer is yes. There's a 2.5 seconds gap between them as we go for a break. 33 building up to a terrific climax, and this is a replay of Mika Häkkinen's rear wing breaking off, the McLaren going off the circuit as it unships its moorings, goes across the tarmac and the grass and into the tyre wall at terrific speed after crossing the track and the gravel.
Yeah, and the more I look at that, I wonder whether it was cause or effect on that rear tyre. If it wasn't the rear tyre sidewall that blew out and took a piece of carbon from the rear wing support with it as it came out of the side of the car. So Coulthard had a tyre problem yesterday in qualifying, very similar thing. So the more I look at that close-up there, the more I'm thinking it was actually the tyre that gave way and damaged the wing rather than the other way round.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, Martin, that Bridgestone, the tyre manufacturers, are disclaiming any responsibility. We initially thought, as we watch Irvine, Sarlo and Frentzen, that the tyre had delaminated. They say it wasn't that, it was cut. So might it have been cut by the wing? Might the same thing have happened with Häkkinen? I'm hypothesising.
It's always difficult to know when a tyre's in a million pieces what, as I say, cause or effect. But the cars do launch across the curbs there, all through every chicane. You've seen it for yourself as the drivers take a lot of curb, and there's a lot of energy going through those tyres, 800 odd horsepower, and it's not surprising. Occasionally they do get damaged, but who knows? It's very difficult to tell. Go and find all those pieces of Häkkinen's tyres and the rear wing, and then try and analyse that. Very difficult.
Good news. Damon is going to meet you and take you back in his aeroplane. You're all right.
Damon has sent a message to Martin. He'll meet him at Speyer Airport after the race. See, he's a nice man, isn't he?
And so is Heinz-Harald Frentzen as he fights for third position. The gap between Frentzen and Sarlo there is 2.4 seconds. It's closing all the time. We're building to a mammoth climax for this race. Eddie Irvine wants those 10 points, so do Ferrari.
Frentzen locking up very badly there. He'll lose a bit of time on that one, but at least didn't bounce across the grass. So you can see the blue smoke, blue haze in the background. And Ralf Schumacher is very much staying with him, isn't he?
What a stunning race Ralf Schumacher is driving. So is Mika Sarlo. Ralf Schumacher, and I mean this in the nicest possible way, in an inferior car, marginally inferior to the others, is holding on magnificently. And Heinz-Harald Frentzen making maximum use of that new uprated Mugen Honda engine in the Jordan. And we know that the Jordan team have got a magic aerodynamic tweak for Hungary, which is the next event, which is a very slow in comparison with Hockenheim event. And Jordan are looking really, really good for third. And Louise has got Mika Häkkinen.
Mika, what can you tell us? What happened there? Was it a tyre or...?
It looks like it's the tyre problem, because after pit stop it took quite a long time. I think we had some kind of problem. Went out again behind the friends and overtook that quite nicely. But then just heading for the stadium area. And I was just looking in my mirror. Thinking about, wow, is everything cool? Everything's fine. And then it just went bang, and just lost the control. And you can imagine when you're doing 210 miles per hour, 340 k's. When you spin off like that, you do get some more grey hair, I tell you.
We're glad to see you okay, Mika.
An astonishingly composed account from Mika Häkkinen.
For 7th place, Murray, this scrap between Panis and Wirtz. Wirtz has got the line. Panis is later on the brakes. Nice move. Not often you see people go around the outside like that. Wirtz a tad overcautious, I think, but Panis on a charge.
Lap 35 out of 55. Irvine continues to lead Sarlo as you watch Panis and the Benetton of Alexander Wirtz fighting for position. We're with Wirtz now, looking ahead at Olivier Panis.
Yeah, Wirtz sort of a bit of a half-hearted look up the inside. I think his pride will be a little bit hurt about being passed around the outside into the first chicane. Had a dabble up the inside there, but nowhere near close enough. Panis should have enough of an advantage. You're on board with Wirtz again, looking at it. So look, where do you brake it? So you've got the bridge, and then you're looking for something on the road to say, right, we're going to brake here. And you're doing over 200 miles an hour, and it's so difficult to pick a spot. Now that becomes 10 times more difficult when you're following another car so closely.
David Coulthard is flying. He's in 5th position, closing up on Ralf Schumacher. He's just had the fastest first sector of the whole race. This track is divided for timing purposes into 3 sectors, and David Coulthard has gone through it 0.8 of a second faster than Ralf Schumacher. We're on lap 36. Irvine and Sarlo continue to lead Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Frentzen is just 4.5 seconds behind Irvine, the race leader, Ralph Schumacher actually is closing, would you believe, in 4th place on Heinz-Harald Frentzen. David Coulthard is closing on Schumacher. Johnny Herbert is still in 6th position, and you're watching the battle between Olivier Panis and Alexander Wurz for 7th place, which Panis holds. Alesi is 9th, Genet is 10th, De La Rosa is 11th, Badoa is in 12th position. They are the runners that are left, 12 out of 22 starters. Retirees as you watch. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, and there is Mika Salo. And here is our last break of the race. This is a magical race. You're watching David Coulthard in 5th position. 19 seconds covers the top 5. Eddie Irvine leads Mika Salo. Ferrari, 2-second gap. Frentzen is 3 seconds behind Mika Salo. 4th is Ralph Schumacher. 5th is David Coulthard that you're looking at. 6th is Johnny Herbert, still running in the points in the Stewart. And there's news from James Allen.
Murray, I'm down in the Ferrari garage, and there's going to be some kind of party tonight. When all these things have happened to McLaren, they've been bouncing around. They're absolutely joyous. They came here expecting a podium for Irvine at best, and they're doing extremely well. However, let's not get too excited and let's not confuse matters. Häkkinen's tyre situation was a very strange one. It was a one-off from the looks of things, like delamination type of thing. But tyre wear is something different, and tyre wear is something Ferrari are concerned about. Main reason for that, because they didn't have any fresh tyres going into this race. They had to use the same tyres on which they qualified. Now, David Coulthard and McLaren, they do have some fresh tyres. Coulthard's too far away to make use of them today, but for sure, Eddie Irvine and Mika Salo's challenge now is to protect the car, protect those tyres, and particularly protect the brakes, whilst keeping Heinz-Harald Frentzen behind them.
Yes, next time we see Coulthard's car close up, if you look at his left rear, it's 50 or 60% bare of any of those famous grooves, and Coulthard's car looks positively unstable going down the straights. They're all moving around. Look at him ducking and diving down the straight there. Irvine in a beautiful position. He's leading the race. He's about to lead the World Championship for the 2nd time this year, and he's got his teammate there to protect him, riding shotgun for him. So Irvine in a supreme position, and he can really dictate the pace of the race. Frentzen trying hard to close the gap, but can't quite get there.
As you watch David Coulthard closing down the gap on himself and Ralph Schumacher, who's 4th.
Yes, look at the, can he... Oh, and that's turn 1. It's into turn 1.
De La Rosa going off in the arrows into the tyre wall, as Mika Häkkinen did. But a bit slower, I think, and as you can see, out comes the steering wheel, out comes De La Rosa, and that's an indication of how tyre wear, the surface of the track, and the extreme speed that they're going results in them plunging off the track. We've had a lot of this during practice and qualifying, and now during the race.
Yes, I suspect De La Rosa is going to lose it on the bump on the way in, and if your tyres are getting a bit shabby, he's blocked a front wheel. Look, there is a nasty bump there, but actually it's more braking too late, and it looks a little bit pathetic, that off, I have to say.
And Luca Badar seizes his opportunity to dive through in the Minardi and take 11th place behind his teammate. Minardi are really coming good. They qualified extremely well, bearing in mind their low budget, as De La Rosa walks out of the race. And Marc Genet, the Spaniard, is in 10th position, and Badar is in 11th place. Irvine leads, Salo second, there is Frentzen. There in the background is Ralf Schumacher. There behind him is 5th place David Coulthard. That is how close it is.
Now, the big question mark for me is when Coulthard came in for that wing change early on in the race, did McLaren have time to fill that car completely up and give him enough fuel to get right through, or has he got to have a splash and dash, as they call it, near? In fact, I can see the McLaren, just as I'm saying that, McLaren mechanics coming out into the pit lane there. You can see it for yourself now. So we know that Coulthard has got to come in. He's going to have a set of tyres, and then that's going to put him behind Johnny Herbert. So Herbert's going to move up into 5th place unless Coulthard can do some kind of stunning pit stop. We know they won't be there very long for fuel, Murray. It just needs a little bit of fuel, so it's down to how quickly can McLaren get a set of tyres on that car. That stop-go penalty, for what I expect, was overtaking Panis across the grass, has cost Coulthard a lot of points today.
In he comes for the splash and dash. The splash of petrol and dash out again as quickly as he can. Meantime, I'm looking for Johnny Herbert to see whether the Englishman moves up into 5th place for 2 World Championship points. He's coming round the last right-hander now as David Coulthard exits the pit lane, and there is Johnny Herbert on the right. There is David Coulthard on the left. Herbert goes through, and this is bad news for David Coulthard, because not only has Herbert gone through, but Panis has as well, and that is Wurz closing on Coulthard.
Yeah, but Coulthard's got to keep Wurz behind him if he's going to have a chance of getting back into that 5th place and a couple of World Championship points. Coulthard on fresh tyres. Who can break the latest? David, you've got to get in there and block him off. You can't let him through. And it's going to be a horrible, bumpy, bargy match anytime soon. But Coulthard doing a wall of death around the outside. He knows he's got to keep that place and get those tyres up to temperature and try and keep Wurz off, and then home back in on Panis and Herbert, and I think David should have it this time around.
And look at the way Wurz is continuing to fight, as he did against Michael Schumacher at Monaco, but he has to give in at the Os curve. David Coulthard takes the racing line and keeps the place. That is 8th position for David Coulthard. He is out of the points, up into the...
Wurz has got a good toe though, Murray. He hasn't got the same straight line speed as that McLaren, but he's got a good toe. Hakkinen watching the action from the pit wall. We don't want to see that, please, Mr. Director. We want to see what happens into the 3rd chicane for 5th, 6th and 7th, and this is a replay of Coulthard defending his line down at the Os curve, and I think he should be clear from there to once again cruise in behind Panis.
Now, lap 41, and the man who's making the pace at the present moment is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's 2.8 seconds behind Salo. Salo's maintaining his position, but he's right up behind Eddie Irvine. And if Frentzen could get close enough to Salo, he could win this race. Now, there's got to be a tactical decision about this, where on lap 41, it's a 45-lap race, as Mika Hakkinen on the left talks to Norbert Haug, the Mercedes-Benz sporting director. So, Salo second, Ferrari leads, Ferrari second. Look for the yellow Jordan, there it is, of Heinz-Harald Frentzen. He's dropped back a bit, 2.8 seconds. Ralf Schumacher, the amazing Ralf Schumacher, is actually in 4th position, closing on Heinz-Harald Frentzen, but he's closing at the rate of about 0.4 of a second a lap. There's 4 laps left, including the one that 5 laps left, including the one that they are on. So Schumacher is not going to get that 3rd place unless Heinz-Harald Frentzen has problems. But meantime, the brilliant sight for Maranello Ferrari aficionados in the same shot of the 2 Ferraris leading and in second places in the German Grand Prix, building for a potential 16 points.
Somebody going off ahead of the two Ferraris there and making it back onto the racetrack. And
it's
that's Johnny. No, that's a different shot, Murray. It's a different corner. So that's Johnny just retiring, I think.
Oh.
Johnny Herbert's luck. I mean, unbelievable. I think it was a different car we saw in the gravel trap. So Coulthard has already passed Panis.
I know.
So puts Coulthard into 5th, Panis 6th, Wirtz 7th now, and Johnny Herbert out of the race.
I know the whole Ford team are in despair on behalf of Johnny Herbert, because it's just pure bad luck. It's not his fault all these things are happening to him, but it really does look as though poor Johnny's got some sort of a jinx on him. Every time he starts doing well, something awful in terms of finishing a race happens to him. Lap 42 then. Just 3 laps to go at the end of this one in a German Grand Prix that seems to have had wings. The time has flown, and Salo is still having to stay behind Irvine for team reasons, and Frentzen is still catching them as Johnny Herbert tours off the track to retire at Hockenheim. And it's a gearbox problem, I am told, and now watch Frentzen. It's the gap between Frentzen there and Salo that matters. Salo is in a very difficult position.
He seems to have to pace. Irvine is really, I believe, pacing himself to the end of the race. It must be so frustrating for Salo. You can just look at the front of your cockpit and see the lead of a Grand Prix, and you can't have it. But we all know Eddie Irvine's been there enough times, so Salo's got to do his apprenticeship and pay his dues, and hasn't he done well doing that?
Oh, if you'd said to Salo at the beginning of this season, you're going to finish second in the German Grand Prix in a Ferrari, he would have told you to go away and stop fantasising, and he would have been quite right too. I remind you that he's driven 3 races for the BAR team, and he's one of only 2 people to finish a race for BAR, having driven for Arrows last season, and he's probably made a lot more money out of deputising for BAR and Ferrari than he would have done if he'd had an Arrows team drive. Now we're on lap 42. You just saw David Coulthard, who's in 5th position, but he's 21 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher. Things, as you see the board go out from the Ferrari pit, and you can see how happy the fans are about it. They're going to be absolutely euphoric if these positions are maintained. Meantime, David Coulthard is continuing to fly. Again, comes down his first sector time, the fastest of the whole race, 56.4 seconds, as he endeavours to close down that 21-second gap between himself and Ralf Schumacher. Ferrari leads, Ferrari second, Jordan third, Williams fourth. Coulthard has just done the fastest lap of the race, 1:45.8, which is faster than his own fastest lap last year, notwithstanding the fact that he's on 4 groove front tyres where he had 3 grooves last year, and he's putting in an absolutely magnificent fighting finish, and Panis is 6th, Wirtz is 7th, Alesi, Genet 8th and 9th, Badar is 10th, Johnny Herbert out of the race. So there's 10 runners left out of the 22 started. Lap 43, 2 to go.
There's a spectacular lap there from David, but remember, of course, that he has got new tyres on now and relatively low fuel. This is a replay of earlier on in the race, just as Johnny Herbert has broken down, of Coulthard coming down the outside with a lot more speed on Panis. I don't know whether Panis got held up behind Johnny earlier on in this straight. Coulthard just sailing straight past into 5th place. I don't think he's going to make anything better than that, because Ralf Schumacher is 17 seconds down the road.
Well, the question now on lap 43 is, can Heinz-Harald Frentzen pull something out of the bag and get past 1 or 2 Ferraris? And my answer to that is, I very, very, very much doubt it. Eddie Irvine seems to have this race by the throat, as Ross Brawn, as ever, impassively watches from the pit lane. And they are now on the 44th and penultimate lap. 4.2 miles each lap, so there are now about 8 miles to go in the German Grand Prix as you look at the first 3 together.
Well, they haven't had the fastest cars in the last 2 races, no question about it, in terms of ultimate lap speed. But Ferrari's reliability has been second to none for some years now, Murray, really. And they don't tend to have problems in pit stops with refueling and this kind of thing, or having not getting wheels on properly or whatever. They seem to have a very good, clean act. And here we see the result, as we did in Austria.
Yeah, 5 men have transformed Ferrari. Luca Montezemolo, the boss, Jean Todt, the team manager, Michael Schumacher, the driver, Rory Byrne, the designer, and of course Ross Brawn, the technical director. Together they have nailed together an international Ferrari team. Yes, it's Italian, but it has all sorts of nationalities working for it. And look at this magical picture. Through the heat haze again they come. First, second, Frentzen is third, 3.1 seconds behind Salo, 4.2 seconds behind Irvine, as yet again David Coulthard puts up a fastest lap of the race. He's now under 14 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher, but it's a vain chase unless the German has a problem. We're coming up to start the last lap when they come out of the stadium, which you're looking down on them now.
Well, if you were wondering what James Allen was talking about at the beginning of the show of tyre degradation per lap, there's a clear example of it going on now. The leaders of this race are lapping in 1 minute 49s. Coulthard with new tyres lapping in 1 minute 45s, a full 4 seconds a lap faster. And that's all. They've all got the same amount of fuel on board, of course, just enough to get them to the end of the race. So we know they're level on that. It's purely tyre degradation, and these guys are really struggling to keep the race cars on the track.
In this amazing race, the two Ferraris that you're looking at, if they finish first and second, are going to increase Ferrari's Constructors' Championship lead over McLaren from 2 points to 16 points, because Eddie Irvine is on a potential 10 points again for the third time this season. This will be his third win. Mika Salo, a magnificent second place for Ferrari in only his second race for the Maranello team, is underlining the reputation that he's always had and has never been able to demonstrate because of inadequate motor cars. The Ferrari mechanics and technicians are already getting ready to cheer their men home, not their man, not just Eddie Irvine, but Finland's Mika Salo as well. And Jordan will be well pleased with this race too, because it's going to extend their third place in the Constructors' Championship over Williams, represented by Ralf Schumacher there in fourth place if he finishes the race. Here is Marc Genet, he's running ninth. He won't be lapped by Eddie Irvine, but Irvine comes down the straight for the last time, and that's David Coulthard fifth.
Well, Coulthard announced this morning that he's staying. The team announced that both he and Häkkinen are staying with McLaren next year, of course. He's got a bad dose of the flu, and he won't be feeling any better after tripping over Salo and then that stop-go penalty. So a couple of points for him, but our man Irvine, who's never scored a point here in 5 years, is about to do something different, Murray.
Listen to the horns, watch the flags, listen to the cheers. Eddie Irvine wins in Germany for Ferrari, his second successive victory, his third of the year. Mika Salo extends a hand to Eddie Irvine as well he might. Second position for Ferrari, third position for Jordan and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Ralf Schumacher makes it fourth for Williams. David Coulthard gets 2 World Championship points after a very torrid race for McLaren, and Olivier Panis is going to take 6th position. So now Eddie Irvine leads the World Championship for drivers by 8 points over Mika Häkkinen. Heinz-Harald Frentzen is in third position, and he started this race in fourth place. He's passed Michael Schumacher, of course, by 1 point, Schumacher not being here. David Coulthard is in fifth position, and Ralf Schumacher is in sixth position. And McLaren, as I said, have dramatically had their Constructors' Championship second place increased thanks to Ferrari's magnificent first and second places. Well, I didn't expect this to happen. I don't think many people would have forecast a third win of the year and a second in succession for Eddie Irvine. And if indeed, as we believe, it is true that he's leaving Ferrari to join Stewart next time, it's a quite amazing situation that he's fighting for the World Championship for a team he's going to lose.
This is a bizarre... if that's the case, and it's certainly looking probable, then you really got to wonder about the politics of it all through to the end of the season. And if Irvine takes the World Championship for Ferrari, something Michael Schumacher promised to do, where will Michael be? How will Michael feel about that? What does Michael feel? We saw him sitting at home on his bench in Geneva. I wonder just what's going through his mind at the moment.
And would he indeed decide to retire? Well, we're all double guessing.
No, he won't retire. No way he'll retire. But he'll be very uncomfortable about coming back, I believe, and supporting Irvine for the championship. Who knows? But Eddie Irvine winning in the Ferrari and in the German Grand Prix, Michael is going to be feeling a bit green.
Yes, he is. But let's not forget that it's Michael Schumacher who has made this team what it is, with some inspired leadership and driving. And we still, after all, have got 6 races left. We go to Hungary in 2 weeks' time. But it's a situation that I would never have dreamed of forecasting. And Eddie Irvine and Mika Salo, 2 gigantically happy men, wave from the cockpits, and they're coming back to go into the Parc Fermé, where the massed Ferrari mechanics and technicians and the top men of Ferrari from Maranello will be there to greet them. And they're going to find it very difficult to leave this circuit. Look at the support. That support was originally intended for Michael Schumacher. It was for him that they'd bought their Ferrari flags, but their allegiance is with the Italian team, and therefore with Eddie Irvine, whose mother and father are both here. And in the past, both the races that Eddie Irvine has won, they were not at. So this is the first time that they will have seen their son Edmund winning a Grand Prix, and they will be just as happy as he is.
Need to spare a bit of a thought for Mika Hakkinen, who had really quite an easy and clear lead, and that tyre blowout certainly gave him a big fright, as he admitted to us here on F1 ITV. But Eddie Irvine, a worthy winner. Is he going to be enjoying himself tonight?
And let me say again, a great drive by Mika Salo. Ferrari now lead McLaren in the Constructors' Championship by 16 points. Jordan have increased their gap over Williams in the Constructors' Championship, and they are 16 points similarly ahead of the Grove team. Jordan 3rd, Williams 4th, Benetton in 5th position, and the Stewart team in 6th place. And my one of many regrets in this race is that Johnny Herbert did not finish in the points as he so worthily should have done. There is the confirmation in front of you of what happened here in Germany at Hockenheim in what has been a quite incredible motor race. Off the track at enormous velocity, into the tyre wall goes Mika Hakkinen, and mercifully is all right. David Coulthard takes a 10-second penalty. Dreadful race for McLaren, but he still manages to finish in a points scoring position for the Woking team. So now up to the podium, and the crowd will be absolutely ecstatic when the 2 Ferrari drivers step out. Eddie Irvine looking a bit lost. Which way do I go? Which way do I go? Pasquale Letourneau leads him out.
Yes, a bit of a slow-mo replay now of Eddie Irvine en route to that great victory. Looking at Salo, scored 15 World Championship points in 72 starts, so he's just added another 6 to that.
Yes.
Quite amazing.
And Jordan had already scored more World Championship points when they came to Germany than they did in the whole of last year, and they've added another 4 points for their 3rd position from Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Pity that Damon Hill had to retire again, but now you look at Frentzen in the Jordan, and I repeat again because it's worthy of repetition, the Ferrari have taken the first 2 places at Hockenheim, with Eddie Irvine scoring another maximum of 10 for the 3rd time this year. Mika Salo underlining his reputation with 2nd place. Heinz-Harald Frentzen for Germany, for Jordan, and himself takes 3rd position. And Eddie Irvine mounts the top step of the podium, as he did in Austria, as he did in Australia. Look. the first time in his 73 race career, Mika Salo from Finland stands on the podium. And the Italian national anthem sounds out for Ferrari. And as the trophies are handed out, there's a wonderful gesture coming up from Jean Todt, the Ferrari team manager, who permitted Ross Brawn, the technical director, to take the Constructors' Trophy in Austria. Standing on the right of your picture is the Ferrari chief mechanic, England's Nigel Stepney. And he's going to receive the Constructors' Championship. Irvine has had the Winners' Award, Mika Salo for second place, Heinz-Harald Frentzen for third, and there is a very proud Nigel Stepney receiving the Constructors' Championship trophy for Ferrari. And that is Narika, who is Mika Salo's Japanese wife, very happily seeing her husband. They only married a week ago. Ferrari gave him special time off to have a day at his wedding instead of testing for Ferrari. Well, what an amazing German Grand Prix. We've had 5 successive superb races in Formula One, and the championship continues, and it means that McLaren have got to redouble their efforts as the champagne sprays to get back to the top.
Murray, thank you very much indeed, Murray Walker, and Martin Brundle as well. And as Murray was saying there, Canada, France, Britain, Austria, and now Germany. A fantastic series of great Grand Prix entertainment. Eddie Irvine had never previously got a point here. Now he is the big winner, and a miserable old time for those McLarens. Well, we have plenty to discuss. We're going to be hearing from Ross Brawn. We will, of course, hear from the top 3 as well. The views of Tony Jardine, all coming right up.
Congratulations, the top 3 drivers at the 1999 German Grand Prix, Eddie Irvine, Mika Salo and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Eddie, a great result, but not a brilliant start. What happened there?
I got a good start, and then DC made a bad one, so I was sort of boxed in again. and then I took the wrong side of Hines going down the straight, so Rubens got me. It was once that happened, I thought, right, I just got to let the race come to me and just look, because I had oil temperature problems, so I just backed off a bit, and really the race came to us.
Now, often you've said you had to wait for the call from Michael. What was it like to give the call to Mika?
Well, I never gave the call, thank God. I know what it feels like. You know, Mika, what a star today. Like, you know, it's his race. He's getting the trophy. I'd feel bad if it was sitting on my mantelpiece. He did a fantastic job, I have to say. Absolutely, boy wonder. Incredible.
Now, once again, you had a poor qualifying, but superb race pace. Is that a problem or an advantage for Ferrari?
Obviously, it ain't great to be qualifying, you know, on the second and third rows, but at the minute, McLaren just seems to have the legs of us. Different circuit. The next one's a very different circuit, so hopefully, I think we'll be quick there, you know. And Mika's up to full pace now, so we've got a very strong team. We can go for the constructors now as well, which, you know, everyone thought that was for sure dead. But now he's doing a blinding job, and both could be on the cards.
Thanks, Eddie. Mika, it's been a fairy tale few weeks for you. You've got married, you've landed Ferrari driver, and now your first ever podium. I mean, how do you feel?
It's been very busy, and when it all started, I had a couple of days of testing, and I'm really happy to go back to Fiorano next week and do some testing, finally, after 2 races. I had a big mess last weekend, but this weekend's been quite good, and I haven't made a mistake, and the car felt really good all weekend.
Made a great start from the dirty side of the track. Was that after a lot of practice?
I've been practicing starts a lot because I didn't have a good one at Austria, so I've been practicing them a lot, and just happened to grip and took off. It was really good. I was happy about that.
And finally, when you got that call, did you have any second thoughts?
No.
I know I've always asked.
Not that time, but when later in the race, when Eddie was going a bit too slow, and I was on the radio, I said, "Oh, come on, tell him that he has to go quicker," because Heinz was catching a little bit. And
Thanks, Mika. Heinz, how is it frustrating that after 200 miles you're just 4 seconds behind and chasing all the time?
Well, yeah, basically the start of the race, my start wasn't the best one, but also not the worst one. I had to let Mika through, but I was stuck as well on the outside a bit, and Rubens got me 2-3 laps later. I think he was very fast in that stage. We don't know yet now on which fuel level he was, but he was very quick, so I had to let him through as well. And then I tried to find my pace. I mean, I could just keep on going with the guys, and but I couldn't attack in this moment. And unfortunately, also, I got a flat spot after the 4th or 5th lap. I had a lot of vibration on my first set of tires, and Eddie caught me up at the end, but we made then an earlier pit stop just to change tires.
Now, you've moved into 3rd place in the World Drivers' Championship, and you're consistently scoring. Do you think you're in with a chance?
Chance of what?
Winning the World Championship.
Well, I don't think so. I mean, we are in good shape at the moment, and we are able to finish the races, as you said, consistently. We are very reliable. Package is very strong, but racetracks like Hungary, well, we need a lot of downforce. Our car is not as quick like, for example, here in Hockenheim, but we are on the way to improve it, and we're looking forward to improve it. But, well, we have to fight hard for that.
Heinz, thank you. Eddie, looking forward to the next race, which is at Hungary, which is the complete reverse, a very high downforce circuit. Do you think that's going to play into Ferrari's hands?
Yeah, I think it should be more they are. Like, it's a circuit I enjoy as well. You know, it's like a little go-kart track. You're left, right, and there's no big stops, which is great. You know, here it's just accelerate, stop. So I'm looking forward to a real, you know, tussle with the car, because there you're just fighting it the whole way around the lap.
And now you're 8 points in the lead of the World Drivers' Championship. You must now really be thinking you've got a good chance.
Well, you know, here today, really, I just thought, right, the McLarens are too quick. We got to just, you know, make sure I finish, get some points, and, you know, live to fight another day. And the race came to us. As long as that keeps happening, we're looking good.
Thank you, gentlemen. Now, Mika and Heinz-Harald, a word in your own language, please.
Joo, oli ihan hyvä viikonloppu verrattuna viime viikonloppuun. Nyt kaikki meni niin kuin pitikin, ja mä oon tyytyväinen, mä oon toinen, vaikka mulla olisi mahdollisuus ollut voittaa ketään, mutta se on tärkeämpää, että mä saan auttaa tiimiä. Ja ei mitään, nyt ensi viikonloppuun Unkariin ja siellä uudestaan, että jos saisin pidemmän kaulan Edin, niin antaa mun voittaa seuraavan kerran. Että mä oon todella iloinen. Kaikki kiitos Tallille, ne teki täydellisen työn, ja se on ihan sama, kuka tuohon autoon istuu, se menee noin hyvin aina.
Thanks, Mika. Heinz-Harald.
Ja. Ja, ich bin sehr glücklich heute über das Resultat. 3. Platz, das erste Mal in Hockenheim auf dem Podium und das erste Mal in Punkte nach 5 Versuchen. Es hat geklappt. Ganz zufrieden bin ich nicht mit dem Resultat. Klar, wir haben in der ersten Reihe gestanden heute, aber am Start hat es nicht gut geklappt und auch den Rhythmus der Ferraris konnten wir heute im Renntempo nicht halten. Wir haben heute wieder Punkte gemacht. Ich bin happy darüber und ich